Hey everyone! So, I want to talk about everything that is going on in the world at the moment. Everything. It's been such a tough few days, and I know it has for you as well. I really know that. I know that everyone is hurting. There's so much pain out there. I recorded a video yesterday, or a podcast, I should say, with my good friends Monica and Ruth, who are over in the US. And, every day I think of my friends in the US and what they're going through. And then I realize, or think of what we're going through here. And this morning, we had our on the news, it said that the COVID report of why Black Asian minorities are being more affected by COVID-19, that's not going to be published, or not this week possibly, because they're thinking that the racial tensions in the US will overflow to here because of what's in the report. So that just tells me, well, what's in the report? Just let us know what's in the report, because frankly, no one's that naive that we can't see the inequality here. We don't know it. We don't feel it. Those of us with non-white skins, brown, black skins, we see the injustice. We have it. We have it every day of our lives. So really this video was around the report and just made me think about everything that is there and how everything wants to be hidden, and it's all coming to the surface, right? It's all coming up. It's all there for us to see. And a lot of us are seeing it. A lot of us maybe who weren't seeing it before are seeing it now. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing. It needs to be out there in the surface for it to be dealt with, for things to change. Things don't change when we keep things hidden and internal forever and ever and not out there. Couple of years ago, I went on a workshop, and it was Black Asian, it was people of color, it was women of color. And it was a workshop to do with childlessness, and childlessness by circumstance, which means that you didn't necessarily want to find yourself in this situation, but along the way and with life's experiences and lessons and your soul's journey, it happens that you're childless. And this workshop was is by the Gateway Women group. And this was for women of color. And we had an exercise to do. And the exercise is been in all workshops, so all the workshops where there were majority white people, and it all mixed. It was just all workshops. And this exercise was about, if you could see yourself in 5 years' time and you didn't have to think about money, you didn't have to think about any kinds of circumstances, what would you be doing? Where would you be? How many books would you have published? What job would you be in? What country would you be living in? And it was that kind of far thinking dreams that you could come up with. And the moderator, our dear Yvonne, was walking around and listening to our little mini groups of talking and what we were talking about, and everyone was there thinking small and being small. And she couldn't understand, because the workshop that she had been on was one of the first workshops, and I'm assuming or guessing here that it was majority white, but it was a workshop where everyone was thinking about 5 years' time, and people were thinking big and huge. And then she was listening to us in our small groups, basically thinking small. I was like, well, I might have published a poetry book maybe in the next 5 years. And she came over and she said, 5 years? She said, you would have published 5. And it was thinking bigger, thinking more. And we came together and we couldn't understand. Well, we could understand, right? I think you can see where this is going. It was that realization that no matter what opportunities, what money, we couldn't see past really that circumstance of our color and the opportunities that we would get because of that. I believe anyway, that made us think smaller. And I came home from that workshop. Wow, it was like a big breakthrough for me. It really was a big thing around that race issue. And I wrote a poem, and I'm going to read you this poem because I think it just made me realize, and I hope it just brings another dimension to it, and then we can talk about it. So I wrote this poem, and since I wrote it, it has been published, and I have my little book. I write my poetry under Grace Sumaria. The poem is called It's in Our Bones. It's in our bones the way they put us down. It's in our bones the way they tied us up. It's in our bones, the beating, the cries, the hurt. It's in our bones. I see now the pain is deep. I see now why I cannot cry. I see now the strength. I see. It's in our bones, yes. And I break free. And that came because the feeling was that this was deep. This is on a deep, deep level. This whole color thing, race, whatever you want to call it. It's deep. It's really deep. And I felt that it's so deep in our bones. And with everything that happened last week with George Floyd, and also the pre-thing with with Christian Cooper, the bird watcher in that New York park, and how Amy Cooper had called the police on him. All of that, all of those microaggressions, the subconscious bias, the blatant racism, everything, it's there. It's deep in us. And when things come up, so like when things like George Floyd come up and we see it outwardly, we see it there, all of those emotions come up within us again. And we remember all of those times that we have experienced all of those things, be it outward racism, be it subconscious, it's there. I received a lot last year when I was going through my healing journey and going through the health system, things I experienced there. It wasn't to do with the NHS being underfunded or working too hard. There was a lot there which was to do with colour as well. There's a lot there with a lot of things that are explained away by different things, by, you didn't go to the right university or the right school, or this opportunity didn't come because of that. And we can all think about it in our lives. There's lots of ways where we excuse things. And that injustice is not right on any level. The class injustice, the race injustice, poverty, homelessness, there's so much out there, so much injustice, and it's not right. None of it is right. And I really wanted to speak about that, how because it's so deep, it does come out. And yes, I can see why the government doesn't want to publish this report, because yes, that injustice is deep again. That colonial injustice, right? That going to other people's countries and bringing them back here, not necessarily as slaves, but as workers, helping to build the NHS, the Windrush generation. And then what? Letting them go? Letting them just be for themselves? Not helping? Ignoring the issues when they come up years later? All of these injustices are deep. As you can tell, it's really hot here, but I just felt I had to make a video today and not wait for a cooler day, because there's a lot out there. So I want to read you another poem which I wrote when I was 17. So this is 1990, let's say. Yeah, 1990. I don't belong here. They came to our countries and took them over, into our homes, into our lives, and ran them. Now we're here, in this better country, living as them, learning as them, but we're not one of them. I want to go home to where I belong, where there are no barriers because of race, where everyone is the same, one. I think everyone wants that, don't they? Doesn't everyone want that sense of belonging, to feel at home? Maybe that's why I do so much soul healing and meditations, because I feel at home when I'm in the soul, and it's that internal level of coming back to yourself, coming back home, and that takes you away from the external, but also it's a different level of home and belonging, right? And I also want to say, when I walk out of the door, that's a different world as well. It really is. And, it's all of those accumulated microaggressions which I think really get me a lot. Before, when I was walking, people used to cross the road. And this was before social distancing, so I want to talk about that. But it was like they didn't want to perhaps engage with me. I started to think at some point that they were scared of me. Scared of, I don't know what, but scared of me. Maybe having to say hello, or having a chat and not knowing what to say, or the fear. And then I think of black men, and I think of that same feeling, or even, magnified obviously, but that same thing of how people will cross the road. They won't want to walk on that side. They won't want to be in that presence and they feel that they are fearful or they believe that way. And what are they fearing? So I wanted to just say about that, because people started to do that to me here. And I was like, what is going on? What is wrong with me? Why are people crossing the road? And then sooner or later I said to Jay, do you know what? I think people are scared of me. I think they're scared. And why are they scared? The only thing I can think of is the skin color, because, you know, obviously we can't hide our skin color. And now with social distancing, guess who has to cross the road because other people do not value the life of someone and won't bother to cross the road? Me, us. So we cross the road to be kind, to be nice, to realize that we have to keep the social distance. And to realize that sometimes people can't cross the road. Obviously, if they're elderly, we will cross the road. And it's, you know, it's an interesting thing because, you know, there are people out there who will stay there in the road. And I think before all this, you would have crossed the road. But now you want to make a point of not crossing the road. Because yes, I know I'm not of value to you. I know that you don't care. I know that this skin color and my presence is too much for you to care. It's too much for people to want to care. I wasn't sure where this video was going to go and whether things would come out or not, but that's how I do my videos, right? And I am grounded. I ground every day, and during this time I ground more, just as I have been recommending to you guys to ground more, obviously during the whole coronavirus, and now as well during all of this. Grounding is so important, but things come up, things will trigger you and bring that injustice back to the surface, back there. Because you know what, it can't be there every single day. I can't go round thinking of the injustice done to me and the way people are looking at my color. Do you think I would be able to stand and to live and to thrive and to be here? No. If we kept thinking about that every single day, and if it was there, which it is there, but you have to have that barrier in a way, that skin, your skin has to harden being different. Or not even being different, because, you know, frankly, there are more black and brown people in this world. It's being non-white, and it's being not of that, those years of suppression of black and brown people, isn't it? It's those years of suppression, and that's what we are all fighting against. That injustice. And we're all doing it in our ways, in our lives, because we need to do it. Because unless or until there is some equality in this world on all levels, on class levels, on race levels, is this world actually going to be that pleasant to live in? We've seen a different world. We've seen a different environmental world with what's gone on with COVID-19. We've heard the birds singing louder. We've heard our own voices be louder. We've noticed the quiet. We've noticed so much. And it's been, for most of us at least, it has been a more pleasant way to live, more kinder way, the way people have empathized. And it's like we can't go back. We cannot go back to the injustices which are out there. We must rise above them. We must try at least. We must try at least. And even if we don't see it in our time, we do it. We stand up. Isn't that how any of the rights happened? Women's rights, LGBTQ rights. They happen because of generations past and people past fighting, rising up, speaking up for those who can't. What I learned last year a lot of with my healing journey was that once I came out of it and I found my voice again, I was speaking up for that time I couldn't. That time really I couldn't. I was in pain, I was inward, I was housebound, I was there. I couldn't speak up. And as soon as I could speak up, I started to speak up. I started to, because I knew, okay, I can. And there are lots of people out there who cannot. They're not in that time yet. You might be one of them, and that's okay. That's okay to be inward, to be strengthening yourself, to be growing that fire within you, that voice within you, so that when it's right, it can come out and you can speak out. Not everyone needs to speak out all at the same time. This is not going to be an overnight thing. This is going to take time. And different voices will rise up as they're ready to rise up, and we will as well. So I use my voice because I can. And if you can, you will, and you do. And if you're not ready for that, that's okay too. There's never any judgment here, that's for sure. So I wrote another poem which hasn't been published yet. So I will put the link, of course, to this beautiful poetry book of mine. And I do also have a Patreon site where I put snippets of poems and poems before they're published, and I'm going to start updating that again because I had my long hiatus when I wasn't doing much. So now that I'm able to I'm doing more, and I'll start posting more poems on there. But I do have a poem which I have not published, and this came out of it's from the 4th of January 2019, so last year. And this, I think, came out of that police report where they were talking about that they had the report came out around institutional racism and that it was there. I can't remember if it was, I think it was the police, and I know there's been another one since that with the NHS as well, so I'm not sure. But anyway, it was something around institutional racism and how deep that is and how long that is. So this poem is called Too Far for Us. That day is too far for us. That day when colour is not seen. That day when all are equal. When opportunities are for all. When everyone comes together and there is good for all. That day I dream of is too far for us. And that was actually a response because in this report it said that it would take 100 years until it was completely wiped out in the institution. I have a feeling it was the police, but please don't quote me on that. So, but it was an institution. It was about that institutional racism, which again takes even longer, right, to get out of that, because the training, the generations that have gone, the managers, the people above you, that takes a while. So that was called too far for us, because it was a time where I saw that, possibly I wouldn't see that time. It's too far in the future. But do you know what? Even when you can't see that time, even when it is too far, that doesn't mean you can't make a stand now. It really doesn't. Because yes, it can take generations. Look at the whole climate change. Look at the environment. Would the environment even have stopped? Would planes have stopped if it wasn't for coronavirus? If it wasn't for this pandemic? No, they wouldn't have. We know that. We all know that. They wouldn't have. So it's that kind of thing of, yes, make the stand now. Yes, speak about it. Yes, speak out. And even if it doesn't happen in your lifetime, that's fine. That's okay. Let it be there for the generations younger. Let it be there in the future. We can make a stand whenever. So even if it's too far, and even if you think, what's the point? There's no point in it, which, believe me, I have said that and felt that a lot of times. I am, I'm in my 40s now. I'm going to be 47. So it's like, there's lots of years of thinking different things around this whole situation. And the other thing, the last thing, because I know I've gone on for a long time speaking, the other thing is around that rest aspect, because all of these issues, these deep in your bone issues, my loves, it's in your bones. These issues take energy, and that's where that tiredness comes into it. Like when people say they're tired of talking about this, they're tired of it. That's where it comes in, because, it's been there for so long. People have been speaking about this, my goodness, for generations before us, and it's still there. And it's there, but on a different level. There are different levels, and the different countries have different aspects of this all, right? Here we have a big around the colonial. For me, especially around this, it's around that colonial. My parents were born in Kenya. So they were born at a time when it was whites and coloureds, and also a time when the different colour led to different things. So they are brown, they are Asian, and that colour led to a different thing to the black Africans. And again, a different thing to the white Europeans in Kenya. So it's complex. It's a complex issue. There's no easy fix. There's no easy thing around this, but we need to speak our stories, our voices around that, be that the microaggressions that you feel every day when you go into shops and people look at you, and the subconscious bias which is there when you go for job interviews, or anything really, the blatant racism out there, the things that people say to you, the school, in my school, when I was in the first year, and I went to a very good school. I went to a girls' school in London, Church of England. This was in the first year of school, so I was 11. I was a very good student in my primary school. I used to speak in church. I had very good English. I was a reader. I was a writer already by that stage. And because of my colour in the first year, they knew nothing about me, because this is when you go into secondary school. So they know nothing about you really from your primary school. Because of my colour, they put me into a like a learning English, like a separate class that you go out of your main class of English, because they must have thought I couldn't read and write English. And so it was like a learner's class, right? So it's a learner's class. So yeah, so people obviously do have difficulty in English and they need to learn, and it's not just people of color who have that problem, right? I mean, it can be on any level, really, any color level. So I was put into that, but I wasn't put into that in that I had a pre-test, a spelling test, for example, or something where they had found out that I wasn't very good. It was primarily based on my color, because I went into this class and then started to work, and within an hour or two of being in that class, I was back into my main class. Because first of all, you know, I used to stand up to speak. I used to, you know, public speak in church from the age of 9. I could speak, I could write. So, you know, I was back into my class before I knew it, really. And I didn't actually realize that until much, much later, like recently, like maybe in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, that actually happened, and that why that had happened, that I'd gone to that class. You know, maybe I blocked it out, or maybe I just wasn't that significant at that time. And then obviously once more things, you get triggered and more things come up, you look back at your life and you think, well, what has happened in my life which was also a case of that happening? And then some level on my subconscious, that's there, right? That 11-year-old child who has known she is good and that she is good enough, right? She's known that. She's been valued in her primary school, but then going to another school and seeing teachers treat her in a different way. Now, I don't know how that impacted me during the rest of my schooling or anything. I don't know. I would have to do some journaling around that, and some soul searching and meditation and all the other things that I tell you to do. I would do that myself to realize, you know, where is that, and to start letting that out, letting it come to the surface, letting it go away. But you know, these things happen to black and brown children all the time, and they continue to happen now. And it's time to start fighting these injustices, start looking at them, start looking at ourselves, the way we act with other people and other colors. What we're doing. That's important. Whatever color we are, it's important. You know, it's important to look at our interactions and what's going on there. Okay, my loves, I think that's it. I think I'm all talked out. It's a different video. I don't know what to say about that. Let's see. If you want to comment, please do. If you want to join my Patreon site, where I will start posting my new poems which haven't been published yet, and let's get another poetry book out this year, right? Because you know, that 5-year thing, that was like 2 years ago, and yeah, need to do another book. And if you'd like to buy the book, it is on Amazon, but I have a link as well, so I'll put a link on. And yeah, you can buy it at other independent bookshops as well, and you can ask them for it. It's, you know, it's available out there. Yeah, stay well, my loves. Especially, I give so much love and energy to my American friends, because I have so many. And I think of you all so often, you know that. And I think of all of you so often, you know that too. And stay well, stay safe, whether it's the social distancing or it's staying safe at home, because of all the protests and the riots, right? So we have, you know, now again, we have a different level to this whole coronavirus thing, right? There's another level, because really this is it's all showing up this year. It's all showing up, and I'll have other videos for you soon. Okay, my loves. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you soon. Bye.